It is time for AfroEconomics. Thank you for sharing this portion of your wonderful July 16th, 2025 with me. I appreciate you. This discussion today is about legacy. Legacy. I was I we always start at high noon, and I sent out to start at 12:15 because I'm trying to work with the system on why the texts aren't going out. And I was like, you can't find out that the text doesn't go out until the text doesn't go out. And so a couple of people told me last week on Friday, oh, the text didn't go out. And I was like, so I assumed, and it's really, really bad for you to assume. Now I'm gonna tell y'all this. Like, I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. Wow. Goodness. Yes, indeed. So I started this firm in 1995, and I know better than to assume. So a lot of people came into the member meeting. So I said, oh, well, they must have gotten the text. So everything must be fine. And then today, when I was looking and I was like, I don't think this text is going out. And then and then you only can like talk. And I was like, I'm gonna get my webmaster to work on that. Because the whole chatting back and forth to a robot, you paying for this. It's something else, like, but I mean, they actually feel like this is an appropriate way for customer service. It's ridiculous. How are you, Dr. Williams? That's right. The email went out. That's right. Thank you for adding something positive to that. Because I'm telling you, you think that you can be in business so long that everything would just be smooth sailing going ahead. Like, everything would just be better. Everything will be good. And then you realize, like, life humbles you. Life humbles you. Not just technology, but life in general humbles you. And I was thinking in there about, I was invited to a birthday party, a surprise birthday party for a client. And and I was really excited about it. I even put it on Facebook. I was like, I'm invited to a party because, like, I don't get invited to a lot of stuff. I don't. And even though I have thousands of clients, I don't get invited to a lot of stuff. So I got invited to something, so I was excited about it. So then it was storming on Saturday, but I was like, I'm going to this party. I told my daughter, I was like, I was invited to a party, so I'm going to the party. So I waited for the storm to pass and everything, and then I, pulled it up, and I was like, wow, the e-bike doesn't have the address, but I know my client's address. So I went in, looked it up, got their address, because I got it via text. I got that info via text, the e-bike and everything. And I don't even know why. Again, I assumed. I told you how hard it is. Like, you shouldn't assume. But you go into a party, it didn't say it wasn't at home. So I assumed the party was at home. So I got to their house and nobody was there. And I really couldn't tell, like, which house is the house. So I was like, I'm going to stay in the car and I'm going to call people. So I'm going to call everybody in the family that I might have a number for. And I called the number. Nobody answered at first. And so, like, my whole excitement. So I'm just saying this to say that legacy planning, legacy is the first principle of AfroEconomics. And truly, the best accomplishment that you can make in your life is realizing that you are valuable, that you matter. Because I'm telling you, when I found out that the party had been changed to somewhere else, and basically everybody knew except for me. I really realized that I really don't matter. You really just don't matter. So sometimes, like, people will, like, they work in a business and they go, here it is, like people with the federal government, and they go, I worked there all those years and they don't even care and blah, blah, blah. We cannot allow our value to be connected to the actions of others because everybody else is doing what everybody else is doing. They're not thinking about, oh, let me make sure that JB knows the new place. They're not thinking, at all. Like, and I'm thinking stuff like, I'm alone. I don't want to go to the door and ask if this is the right house by myself. Da 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 da. I'm going to, you know what I mean? You start going into the whole thing. I know Miss Davis, if she's listening out there, she's like, yeah, that's why you should have your gun in the car. You could have put it in the back, go to the door. Look, not even a thought, not even a consideration. I only think about those type of things. But maybe that's what, we need to start thinking about, the worst case scenario. I remember that when my father was passing away. My dad was like very, very distinguished, very, thank God, very well spoken, dark, black man who loved, that's right. Amen, Miss Davis. He loved us. He spent his entire career working at historically Black colleges and universities, and his goal in life was to become a president of an HBCU. And he did it. And I remember on his deathbed, he said, so you know how people go, oh, people, it doesn't matter. Nobody's on their deathbed talking about what they didn't do at work and blah, blah, blah. Yes, Dr. Curtis Bryan Sr. was on his deathbed saying, I would have been the president of 3 given the opportunity. Because I was telling him, I got this meeting. I got to go to New York. I remember telling him that. And he was like, yeah, girl, go get it. Get it. Get it. I would have got more. So that's a big part of our legacy, I think, is keeping our head straight, reminding ourselves that God gave us our purpose and that we are going to be used in all different types of ways, and that we're protected no matter what. We're protected no matter where we go, no matter what, and don't take anything personal. If I get to a point in my career and I don't feel like any of them anymore, and they don't care, and they don't want my opinion on anything because they think that AI is the future of everything and that's the answer to everything. And why ask JB when I could just ask my handy dandy robot AI financial person, computer? That does not mean that everything that we've accomplished up to this point isn't important. And that's what legacy is all about. I think that we have to set footprints, create paths in the places that are least traveled. There were only a few registered investment advisory firms in the entire nation in 1995. Like less than 5,000 when I started my firm. I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. But I often wonder, like, does it really help? Is it really help when we're ahead of the thing, when we're ahead of the wave, and you're Black and don't have access to capital, don't, like, I don't really think so. I think that what it has helped is the people that I've been able to help. And that doesn't make the legacy and the purpose any less, no matter what you do. If you work at McDonald's at the front counter, the other day I was getting some Arby's. I love, sometimes I love their rotisserie chicken. And that particular day, I wanted it. And I was like, I'm not going to this location over here closest to my house, because the last time that I went there, I don't even want to tell you how gross it was. Well, I got to tell you because since I brought it up. But the manager was making the delivery, and he had mucus that was all in his mustache and his nose. And I'm telling you, I didn't even want to eat my food. I didn't even know how to explain to him that you didn't wipe your face, or, oh, it was terrible. So then I couldn't go to that location. So I went to another location up the street, and this young Black male was working the drive-through window, which you just don't see often. And I was getting my stuff, and I was like, thank you. And then he said, how are you doing today? And I thought he was talking to somebody else, because nobody ever asked me how I'm doing. He said, I said, are you talking to me? And he said, yeah, how are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm well. Like, how are you doing? Thank you for asking. It's like that one move from him actually asking, I was like, this young man is going through the moon when he grows up. I was like, I did everything I could to let him know, to give him the energy that he was putting out. Because most of the time in life, when you're putting out all this positive energy, you're doing all this desire, you have all of this, and God gives us the chance to give it back, even if what you're giving it to doesn't give it back to you. God gives us, whenever we get the chance to give it back, we've got to do it. We've got to do it. We just got to do it. And I know Dr. Williams and Ms. Davis are just two great examples of that. How much they just invest in helping young people and helping them stay straight. So when it comes to legacy, we shouldn't get confused that it's going to be like what we leave on the paper. Because a lot of times what gets left on the paper is not to whom it really deserves to be. But you feel like, well, you can't leave everything to the guy who was nice at the Arby's window, even though that could have saved your life. Like Reverend Bozeman was sharing one time that this guy wrote this letter, and he said that if somebody is nice to me before I get to that bridge, I won't jump off that bridge and kill myself. It's just one person says hello. And no one said hello. I know a woman in Richmond a couple of months ago parked her car next to a bridge in the wintertime. They haven't seen her since. Last person that saw her saw her standing like she was about to jump off. So what we think that only what matters is what we put in our paperwork. No, what really matters in our legacy is what we do from day to day to show people that we appreciate them, that we value them, that they matter, that they matter. So when with the trust, some key things that I wanted to share was that often I have people who have told me that they were approached, and that they were told that if they take all their assets and they put it into a trust, then they would get approved for the long-term care Medicaid when they get old. And remember, Medicaid varies from state to state, but it's pretty consistent with this. If you're broke, they will help you get long-term care. If you prove that you're broke, that you don't have anything. So the key there is not just a trust. And that's why a lot of times it gets confused, because a lot of times when you go, like every professional, like I was saying, like every drive-through window's not the same, every lawyer is not the same. If you don't get an elder care specialist, that someone that actually is going to be honest with you, or be a member of AfroEconomics, so that we're reviewing these things together and looking out for these things, you can do something that you think is going to help and it's not going to help. Like I've seen people and their parents are about to die, and they're trying to figure out how to make sure that they keep everything that their parents have. And from a client perspective, if that person is my client that they're trying to make sure they get government assistance on, I don't quite know if my client understands that there's a different level of care. There's a different level of care when you're paying for the help that you get. It's like free lunch at school. You know, when you're getting the free lunch, you eat what they have on the menu that day. When you save your money and you can afford to take care of yourself, and you use your assets to take care of yourself, then you get well taken care of. And I'm just not quite sure that I want I would advise for all my clients to hide all their assets away, so that you're put in, some closet somewhere, and is into some government long-term care facility handled by the state, because you're trying to be broke to make sure that they still get something, when they still could get something. You don't know how long you will live. People typically, if they have to go into a long-term care facility, they don't live that long. So it's like, so now you have, or even if they just have the government person coming in, and if you are trying to make sure that you present all your hard-earned assets as you're broke when you get older, then you must be prepared that you're not going to be living at Buckingham Estates for the seniors, and going to being rolled out into the sun each day. You're going to get whatever you get. So you worked 40, 50 years for that. Is that really what we want to do? I mean, you really have to think about it. Like, is that really necessary? And the bulk of my clients, their income will be too high to qualify for Medicaid anyway. So if they try to take this asset strategy of they're hiding away, so because they're thinking, I don't want to have to sell my stuff, and you don't have the ability, you can't live there anymore. You don't need to live there, but you still don't want to sell it. So you're not trying to look out for your best interest at this point. It's not about you at this point. You're doing that because you're thinking, oh, I don't know. You might not even be thinking. But if you establish a trust, an irrevocable trust, which is required, it has to be irrevocable to be a Medicare plan trust, Medicaid plan trust, so that you can get Medicaid, so that you can appear to have nothing. It has to be done well in advance for you actually needing that long-term care assistance. So typically it's at least 5 years in advance, and it has to be irrevocable. So it says Medicaid eligibility restricts asset limits. And so you have restricted assets, typically like $2,000 that the person can have an asset, unless it's their primary residence. A primary residence, if that's all they have is their home, it does not have to be eliminated. It doesn't have to be put in that trust. Like they have it. They don't have to sell their home because they need the long-term care, especially if there's a spouse still living in that home, you know. So the assets can be transferred to what is called a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, MAPT, Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, where the assets are transferred within the Medicaid look-back period, which is usually 5 years, to avoid penalties. But the key is that assets that are transferred into that trust, they are generally no longer counted as your assets. So then that's why you get to be eligible, but it is irrevocable, meaning you cannot change it back out. And irrevocable things have more tax privileges. So terms that you would need to learn is like irrevocable versus revocable. The overwhelming majority is the revocable, because people know that people change and they want to be able to change their mind if somebody loses their mind. But irrevocable, no, you cannot change your mind even if they lost their mind. It could become a huge legal issue and some tax stuff. Yes. I was thinking of focusing on real estate transfer and not so much for medical care. The goal is to avoid taxes put on the beneficiaries. The estates have to be really big for that to be an issue. Like we're talking about, which I hope will be applicable to you. It's over $24 million, you know, when we get into the estate tax for a married person, when we get into the estate tax issues. And you can also, that doesn't, and you can, there are special privileges for small businesses in estate planning and legacies, so that you don't have to do the trust to get the tax benefits. But the tax benefits, the trust still has to pay the taxes. The taxes still have to be paid. I feel like a big misleading feature is that for the average person, the trust helps them avoid taxation. Then when a person does irrevocable, meaning while they're living, they actually give it to a trust for their children while they're living and cannot take it back. Irrevocable. It could have some tax benefits for your estate, but tax benefits for them, that's a stretch. In many cases, they would do better inheriting the real estate, especially upon the death of the person, so that they could actually inherit it at the market value upon death. So the trust feature is more for a person with a high tax, estate tax estate. So their estate, they know that their estate is going to be really big, and they have to plan on how are we going to reduce the taxation on this after the last of us dies. Because, you know, a single person will their estate will be smaller than the married person, but the married person, their estate can be passed on to the spouse without any taxation on that. No, so they have those assets jointly. So it's going on through, but then that last to die, that it's hard to assume, but some people actually may have some huge estate tax issues upon the last to die based on just the basic movements of the market or increases in value based on historical performance. Where would the estate, or what if they change the tax laws and it will be even higher? It's not going to go lower. 24 million is not going to be 24 million anymore. Like, for small businesses, it's even higher. So it's going to be adjusted for inflation over time. Exactly. I said I was going to start at 15. You didn't miss that much. Not at all. But so we were talking about the taxation, the tax benefit of the trust is a trickery. It's a trick spot. It is a seriously tricky spot because there are a lot of things that now can be done with a transfer of deed upon death that would help the beneficiaries a lot more than having to worry about paying the attorneys with that trust. They won't even be able to sell the property without getting those attorneys involved. On that. If they do you have a transfer of deed upon death and it's approved in your state. And then I even have a client that I'm helping her with, and Florida they don't have transfer of deed upon death, but they have something very similar with a different name that if you're watching Ms. Hawkins, please share that. Mommy, because I found that one day for her, but there are ways around it, especially if it's not complicated. Trust literally help people in complicated issues. You're trying to control things after your death. You have a person in the family who has no discipline, and you want to make sure that this money is passed out this way, the over time. A trust, a regular trust, not even irrevocable, a regular trust, revocable trust, bullshit they say about the taxes, because taxes have got to be paid. You are not getting through the United States of America being able to get around paying taxes, period. Not going to happen. Either the trust is going to pay or the individuals are going to pay. It's going to happen. So then it comes into ease of processing or control. A trust gives you control. If a person also has a disabled child, a special needs trust is one of the best things God ever created. A special needs trust, because that protects them. As you're a special needs child, it should be upon birth. If you know that your child has a birth defect, there should be a special needs trust established right then. And we're putting money in it. We're putting money in it. Because then anything, but the thing about it is a lot of people set up special needs trusts with idiots that they don't know. So when the child, like I had one lady that was volunteering to help. So the child had the special needs trust, and the idiots that were looking over it, not even a law firm, they had this lawyer had selected this company to oversee, and they oversee disabled people's trust basically, and they're exploiting that huge group of people. And I went on their website and their Google, and I put a huge complaint, and there was a whole bunch of disabled people complaining about it. They could not get their own damn money. It's horrible. God, a client that was in a settlement, and the hospital had to pay her the settlement, skipping to another story. But so eventually back to the other one. So the young man, his mom, but it took all of the knowledge that I know. It had nothing to do with legality. I got her a breakthrough by using "you all are not legitimately managing these funds. And then as I got them closer, this local lawyer, the daughter called me. I did all the work, and then that local lawyer took over, and now I don't get any callbacks. I don't know. I'm praying that he's okay. But it's crazy the way people will use you. But then you have to remember that we have to focus on God's purpose. Our purpose comes from God. Needy people don't give us purpose. God gives us instructions. We help them. You know what I mean? And if they do this reversal, that's when you say, no, I've done my due. I've done my due. No more. No more. That was hours and hours of fussing at the firm they were using, fussing. I even called the Attorney General's office, sending emails, all this. And then as soon as they thought there was some money involved, our lawyer doesn't want her to talk to me anymore. Does the trust pays any taxes prior to distribution? Okay, like say you have, like they really doesn't, the distribution is not an issue. Say, I don't know, let's say we have this a trust in it and it has investments in it. So you passed away, you put all your money into this trust account and I'm investing it. Now, out of that trust account has its own tax ID. It is an entity. That entity has to pay capital gains, interest, whatever is made from my wonderful investments on that trust. That trust is my client. The trustee is issuing the money out of it. I might give them a checkbook. They're issuing the money out of it to your kids. So your kids, no, they're not paying the taxes, but their trust is going down because of the taxes and the fees that trustee is most likely charging big time, especially if it's a law firm. And I love lawyers. I'm not saying that we don't need lawyers. I'm just saying that we have to be smart. There's no lawyer that would listen to this discussion and not say, yes, people need to have a better understanding so that when they get in there, because they know, like any other profession, that there's good ones and there's bad ones. And the majority, unfortunately, only tell you on a need to freaking know basis. Like Shannon Sharp, you saw that the other day he went. They were supposed to have their first interview. This man's whole career is on the line. And the lawyer for the other side didn't even show up. So you're suing the man for $50 million, but the other lawyer doesn't even show up. So then I'm watching this show and they're discussing why the other lawyer wouldn't show up. That's crap. This man's life, his life. I'm telling you. So this is your life. You have to go in there and ask the questions. We don't even have to. Like now, I'm helping clients prepare these forms, you know what I mean, ourselves, because there's a firm that has partnered with investment advisors on helping clients get these documents done. So, but on a lot of the times, the questionnaire will not lead to the client actually needing a trust. You just go in there and you get the whole package. You get the will, you get the trust, you get the power of return, the powers of attorney, the financial, the medical directive, and you get it. And what you really might need is a goodwill, update all your beneficiary forms, look into transfer upon deeds upon death. Yes, the trust is its own entity. And then the individual files the return just like the individual. So the individual, the trust gets it, but the trust is not going to give that person a W-2. Like, no, that entity is paying all the taxes on that. And the way that the IRS is protected is because the more you pay, the more taxes that the trust pays, the less money you have in your trust. So it's still reflecting on you. Now, on IRAs, that's going to be tricky because, like, some people put trusts as beneficiaries for their IRAs, and then IRAs and there's some strategies because of the spouse can inherit the IRA a lot easier, but non-spousal, see, these are the things where yeah, because see, a non-spousal person inheriting the IRA, that money has to be out of that IRA account over a 10-year period. So I wonder, so like, yeah, so like the next generation, like, married would have to, think that through, like, how much, or the tax planning for the next generation, because either way, like, they put it in the trust, the money goes from the IRA into the trust, you're still losing, you still have to pay tax, the taxes have to be paid, the IRS is fine, you're not hiding anything because they're getting paid. So look. So somebody who's trickery might say, "Oh, yeah, if you put the beneficiary as the trust, then you don't have to pay any taxes." And that's stupid. Those are the kind of stupid stuff that they do on TikTok. Here's a secret. If you put, that's your damn trust. It's your money. That's your money. Woo! Why in the world do people think that the Internal Revenue Service is retarded? They're not retarded. They're going to get theirs. And the trust the tax rate on the trust could easily be higher than what your individual tax rate would be. Easily. So it just requires a lot of thinking. It requires a lot of thinking. We got to think. So I wanted to, like, I wanted to touch on, like, that was deeper than that. God put us in that direction because these intellectual Black men in here. So Medicaid, I thank God for y'all, seriously. And I thank God. And maybe you trust me because I was raised by a smart Black man. Isn't that something? God is good. So Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, keep that in mind. I don't want that for you. I want my clients rich. I want you rich. I want you rich. I want you rich, and I don't want us growing old, and you know what I mean, and we got the worst of everything. I was telling a client the other day because somebody was trying to get her to start giving all her money out to her grandkids, and I said, hey, things change quickly when we get older. She's almost 100. I said, look, we got to be careful with this. You keep that money. We got it tax deferred right now. You're not paying any taxes. You'll take it out. You're going to have to pay taxes on the earnings and this and that. We made a lot of money. I said, like, you keep that money and you start thinking about finding someone that you trust that will come in and start helping you. You, while you're of sound mind, find the help we need. We got to prepare. We have to prepare. I feel that the best thing that we can do for our children is to not be a burden to them. Not be a burden to them. Because the wisdom, the wisdom that we're giving them while we're alive is such a blessing. That's why the Bible says your children's children. So then wherever we leave, if they don't mess with, our grandchildren will have something way more than what we ever had. Can you imagine starting our professional careers with money from our great grandparents? If the instructions in the will differs from those expressed in the trust, which instructions went out? Does that require the probate? The instructions in the will, if you are establishing the trust with the will, what happens? Which this happened with my mother's estate, and I don't know what they're, going to do about it. So the instructions in the will are establishing a trust. It couldn't be. You're saying the trust was already established. They're two separate entities. Matter of fact, the will is not even an entity. The trust is an entity. The trust would supersede. So what happened with my mother's estate, the trust was never established. That's why a lot of lawyers will say, fund the trust while you're alive. Fund it. Transfer the property over to it. If you're doing that, do it while you're alive. You see, it's a living entity. So it doesn't matter what the will said. It could not override that entity, that trust. But there's always, if you can find a lawyer to fight it, though. Probate couldn't override a will. But with, like in my situation, with the trust not having been established, nor did it say, upon my death, establish this trust. It said this trust exists, but the trust did not exist. So I said, well, where's the trust? And my sister that was doing it never established that. She should have talked to me. But when people are trying to do things behind your back, they miss out on the power of God that can help them. Like, you know what I mean? We said what is done in the dark shall come to the light. And that's what it is. Boom. Wow. You were trying to do something, but you have stepped it. So now what you have stepped, yes, has to go through probate. But if the trust is established, probate can't do that. You can't backstep something that's established. But in my situation, the probate has to be done, and they don't want to go and do it. And that's where probate does pay off for you. Because me being the victim, when they eventually go to probate, they have to include me in it. They have to go. So the probate courts will say, oh, well, this is the kids, and this is how it's going to go. Boom, 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 boom. Period. And that to me is the benefit of probate. It is to make sure that what the will says is done. And if the will is not complete, it has to go through probate. It has to go through the probate laws. This is who everything goes to. Boom. Yeah. Now, probate can supersede a will if the will is proven to not be legit. Now, what I'm wondering about is, like, if they get a lawyer who's crooked and they just go ahead, or even the lawyer that was going to do it, and they go ahead and establish the trust, then I would have to, if I wanted to get involved on that level, but I don't want to, I would have to then say, oh, this trust was established after the day of death. That's a lie. Y'all know that. How could my mother sign off on a trust and she wasn't there? She was dead. But you know, the only way to overcome those type of things is you have to go to the court. And I'm not that person. I just pray to God that, like, I want peace, and I don't want my daughter to inherit any peace, any drama, what God has for me is for me. But yes, great question. Wow, I know Dr. Williams is like, whoa, I didn't expect all that. Thank you. So on funding the trust, that's the easiest part. Just getting the deed changed putting the name on it. If you were like giving it, which I had a client who's done, who just gave the property over. So you create the trust, and then you go to the courts and say, now this trust owns my real estate. And then you but at that point, if it's not irrevocable, you're going to be, that trustee on the trust, and you're going to be, the owner of the property that's giving it up. So if it's you and your spouse that are putting the property into the trust, then you and your spouse, it would be the trust for you and your spouse. Yes, that's and then so investment accounts, trusts have investment accounts. So the trust comes with, and often, like, it'll be based on just the client's social security will be the tax ID for the trust. You can do that if it's yours. If it's yours, you don't have to go and get another separate tax ID. You can use the social of the person. No, XYZ Bob Jones social is the social that's used for the trust for XYZ Bob Jones. But Bob Jones social cannot be used for the trust for Martha Smith. So yes, and then so we get the tax ID, we open up the account like any other account, we put the money in there, we start investing it. Then you could dump other stuff. You could even have a life insurance policy that dumps money into the trust. Why would you do that? Because you want to control it. You want to control, okay, you get this amount when you're 30, you get this amount when you're 40, you get this amount when you're 50, you get this amount, yes. I was like, yesterday I was in a conversation, a client, we were talking about life insurance, and that a parent had life insurance on the child, and the child felt that they should get the cash value from the life insurance. And I was like, I'm like, yeah, but if the parent bought the life insurance policy, the parent is paying the money. When the parent is taking cash out of the life insurance policy, they're using their own money. The cash value is money that you overpaid in premium. And you can take that policy, that whole policy could be the trust. A trust could buy the policy. Trust can have the investment account. Yeah, like but there are a lot of trusts that even like have like say there's a business that's owned by a trust. That's why they had that whole business identity movement with the government, that you had to say who owns the business and this and that, because you have people who were using entities to hide who they were, and then they can money launder, into that entity and say that it was a business front. So, and it was like a whole bunch of like regular small businesses that got caught up into that, but it is a bot for a reason. So now, like if you of a trust did that, they would have to disclose who are the people, the trustee, who's in charge of this, who are the beneficiaries, who's the backer of, who's behind all of this. And that is the way a lot of people find a lot of political stuff as well. That in the that guy Jeffrey Epstein, he had like a trust, and the state paid out to that particular trust some money and this and that. Like, we don't know the half of it, why that guy had so much money. And there was yeah. So yes, like there's what we're talking about is from more of just an estate planning perspective, and how to use it for estate planning. But what we have to remember is that trusts are a whole nother entity, similar to a business, but not. But the trust could actually invest in businesses. Isn't that something? Yeah. Again, what did Ms. Davis say? When the executor has been appointed to oversee a trust, who will oversee the appointed executor? God. Who is making sure the executor does not cheat? God. Right? Like, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, and you would have to actually, if you were the beneficiary of the trust and they assigned this company to do this, like I was saying, they were like, the young man needed braces for his legs and stuff like that, and they were trying to act like that wasn't a valid reason to get money out of the trust when that's what it's supposed to be for. Things like, it's just crazy. So you have to sue them. Like I was saying, I called the attorney general. I was like, what do we do about this? Like, it gets deep. And the sad part is that the person doesn't have money, you know what I mean, or time. Yeah. And a lot of times it's already structured that they can get a fee. So they're going to get their money, but how are you going to make sure you get yours? So then I'm going to just go through my notes because we've just been just talking. So irrevocable versus revocable, transferring assets. Let's see, how can trusts potentially help with taxes? We talked about like the estate tax reduction. If you transfer certain types of trusts, particularly irrevocable trusts, allow you to transfer ownership of assets, removing them from your taxable estate that I was talking about in plain English, and potentially reducing estate taxes upon the death. Key word there, potentially, because a lot of times it could also create more. And then trust can freeze the value of appreciating assets, excluding future appreciation from your taxable estate. This can be beneficial for assets like stocks or real estate. Freezing asset values. That would be most likely something that's relevant for irrevocable. Then you have irrevocable life insurance trusts. These trusts remove life insurance proceeds from your taxable estate, preventing them from being subject to estate taxes. And then, I know those of you who are in Maryland, you have like extra estate taxes that people in Virginia don't have when it's non-spouse. Non-spouse in Maryland really means something. We need to look at income tax consideration. Trust can be structured to distribute income to beneficiaries. So it's saying if the trust says its tax bracket is higher, then you can shift the taxes to yourself to lower the overall tax burden. To me, that would mean I shouldn't have set this up in the first place. Charitable remainder trusts can defer capital gain taxes on the sale of appreciated assets. This allows for diversification of investments without triggering immediate tax liabilities. But charitable remainder trusts, that's, a whole class right there. I used to do those at churches back in the day when I didn't know nothing. When I was new on the scene, everybody cared about me. Now, look, now I'm the dancer that's been on the stage just a little too long. So all this knowledge, y'all, I have to go to social media to share. And that's something. Thank God for social media. Thank God for you, Dr. Williams. Thank God for you, Mr. Barber. Thank God for you, Ms. Davis. I appreciate you all showing appreciation. Please, you all, like and share. And then also, I don't know if any of you have told me the reason for the delay was I was trying to figure out why the text wasn't going out. Did anybody get the text with this link? Just out of curiosity. Because I saw 0 in the chat box at the tech support was just giving me the runaround. I just gave up. Not look on that at that particular time. I just said, okay, 12:15, and we'll move forward. This you got to not allow ourselves to get distracted with this. God is, they'll hopefully see a recording or something. So the important things I want you to remember is irrevocable versus revocable. Irrevocable give you the most tax benefit, but the assets are no longer part of your estate, are no longer yours. You lose control over the assets once they are placed in an irrevocable trust. So, trusts have their own income tax rates, and they reach the highest marginal income tax rate faster than individuals, like I was saying. Trusts can be complex and are crucial to seek professional advice from an attorney and financial advisor to determine the most suitable type of trust for your specific situation. See? And the final point was to be wary of schemes that claims love. I'm gonna hit this. Stand up. And you got to remember this. Be wary, W-A-R-Y, of schemes that claim trust can completely eliminate taxes. The IRS actively pursues abusive trust arrangements. Well, we need to know. And I say it all the time. But trust can definitely be a valuable tool for estate planning and tax planning. And that's what I'm here for. I'm down for it. Yep. You listening to diversification. 12:09 YouTube notification on phone. Thank you so much, Mr. Jefferson. I don't know. What you gonna say? Look, Mr. Barber, that would make sense because you were using the email and the email had the link. And then for diversification in it. And then I've changed it. Look, but I don't think I sent it the reminder with the right one on there. I know. Let's see when it on here. If which one Ryan has on there. Have y'all ever noticed that you can go AfroEconomics Live on the website, and it will so I'm up there. You can't see it, but I'm waiting for it to bring up the live. Oh, it's gonna bring it up there too. I didn't know it would do that. Yeah. Oh, good for him. Good for him. Another brother done come through for me today. He is so AfroEconomics Live, as that's an inside secret, Mr. Barber, that typically, he's a busy man, but typically Ryan will put up in the website that what we're gonna do that day. I know. I better get some of my money back for that text there. I don't know. But I don't know what was up with Friday either, because I was told, and then what if some people get it, some people don't? Or what if somebody gets it at 1 o'clock And I try to send it at 11. And if I send it too soon, it's just as bad as sending it too late, but maybe not. Maybe not. Because at least you could go back and look at it. But I appreciate you all so much. But remember, be careful, and I'm here for you. 1-844-JB-BRYAN. Make sure if your AE profile has a landline like mine, you do not receive a text. Exactly. Does it have your landline? That's terrible. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna find that and I'm gonna switch it too. That's probably what it does. Exactly. I'm gonna switch that. Got you. I appreciate you all so much. This is not an easy topic for me because it's not what I do all the time, but it is something that is very important for me to share. Like, it's very important for me to share, and it is very important for me to stay on top of it. And that's why I do. And that's why these discussions are healthy for me and for you. That I want to be your advocate in every aspect of your life, health and wealth, everything, entrepreneurship, your legacy, our positive mental health. You all keep me together. And I thank you for allowing me to serve you. I sincerely do. Like, you don't have to. You didn't have to choose me, but you did. We need to go back to Wednesday night sometime. Yeah, but I can't even get you coming here Wednesday during the day. So I'm not convinced of that. Because we don't even see your face. I don't even understand. I don't understand. If you come in 3 Wednesdays during the week, then yes. I will do evening sometime. But we should do evening anyway. I should do an evening anyway sometime. It's got to be something very, very important. To be very important. The market is doing great. So that's very important. And I hope that you all really are staying up on everything and realizing that your staying the course once again has benefited you. All right. Blessings, everyone. I'm in here now. Yeah, whatever. I hope your shoulder's doing better too. Eat lots of protein when you're healing. Ms. Davis had shoulder surgery. Eat protein and continue to stay active and stop just doing cardio. Do some resistance. All right. Love you.